Hello, all. We're back with Deep Images, and we are back with more zombies for our Halloween 2025 coverage. I've got with me AC Nicholas, Bill Mulligan, Robert Spaghetti, Justin Cotton, a co host, and our other co host will be back shortly, CF Roberts. I'm Henry Covert. Before we get started, if you would drop a like on the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and if you want to keep up with everything, hit the notification bell. And zombies, yeah, this did really well for us last year, and so we decided to continue it and see what happens. I'm going to get into one that it is a zombie movie. However, I don't really think it's I think to call it a zombie movie is kind of being reductive. And it's a movie that has gradually gained a stature that it deserves after 44 years. I think its stature can only grow. The more I see it, the more besotted and enamored of it I become. It is truly a very mystical experience, and it's been hugely influential in things from Carpenter's Prince of Darkness to The Void. It's called The Beyond. So, The Beyond came out in 1981. This was Fulci coming off of Zombie. That was a huge hit, and Bill covered that one on our last Halloween. They're pretty different, except that they both have zombies that are very interesting looking, that are kind of like dirty and muddy and a little more like voodoo zombies. And they do die when or they are terminated when they're shot in the head or smashed in the cranium, a la Romero. Other than that, they shamble around. They're not fast. But in this case, they are brought to life by kind of a wave of supernatural energy that comes up from the gateways to hell. Seven gateways. Yeah, seven gateways. In America, this was called Seven Doors of Death for a while. Essentially, this movie is what is part of like a trilogy, and there's also House by the Cemetery, and there's also City of the Living Dead. Uh, in my personal opinion, by the Cemetery is my least favorite, but it's still great. It's the most zombie heavy one, I think, of the three. City of the Living Dead is probably the most accessible. It's pretty classy. It's got a great horror atmosphere. And one thing these films have in common, on one level or another, is references to H.P. Lovecraft's Cthulhu mythos. City of the Living Dead takes place in the town of Dunwich, ostensibly the same as in Lovecraft's writings. And it kind of has the cursed populace whose ancestors either killed witches and or interbred with non-humans. In this one, it's based around this character Avon, an ancient sorcerer that I don't think Lovecraft did a lot of developing on. Maybe Robert Bloch or one of his other luminaries did. Book of Avon, according to this movie, is 4,000 years old, which is much younger than it is in the mythos lore. But you know what? It's an adaptation. So the Book of Avon belongs to this character called Anton Zweig, and he lives right near Tremé. I'd made a map. I'm guessing he lives near Tremé in New Orleans because he lives kind of near the Mississippi River, and probably down the street are like some brothels and things. So his house though is like a mansion, and it's a hotel that he rents out. You never see Schweik engaged in any sorcery, but the first thing they call him is an ungodly warlock, and that's probably true. And his charge or his disciple is named Emily. So Emily is sitting upstairs in the living room reading this book of Avon, and the voiceover from her is basically saying, beware, the seven gates of hell open, and darkness will consume you forever, and all that. We only flash a little bit back and forth to her. It's mainly Schweik, and Schweik has been hunted down by this party. They paddled across the Mississippi River. This is like 1927. They're all the voices are dubbed, so they have very southern accents. They're basically rednecks. They're basically intolerant redneck mob holding torches. They're somewhere between like the good old boys of the Klan and like the ones that were running down Frankenstein in the villages. So they really messed this guy up. It immediately shows you that this movie is, it's not like Frankenstein. The punishment they dole out is the nightmarish ones you only imagine in those older movies. So they crucify him and they throw hot lye on his face, and his face slowly melts away. He's all messed up. He's dead. He's all messed up. The line goes, and Emily, meanwhile, has the book open, and these flames come out. The implication in the film is, in that moment, she's blinded by that flame of energy from beyond, and she is blind, but she then becomes immortal and has these amazing senses. So we don't get back to her until much later. So you kind of have to piece her origin just together by just watching closely. That's kind of the end of that. So 1981 in New Orleans, a young lady named Liza inherits this hotel. So the hotel somehow had gone down the chain of inheritance from Schweik to Eliza's, I believe, uncle, and Liza had been living in New York, and she was kind of broke, and she tried all these different gigs and was unsuccessful. And then they told her, "You've inherited this hotel." So she's like, "Why not? Just let me. I'll own a hotel and make some kind of cash." So they get to kind of trying to renovate it a little bit, and she employs these two bizarre people named Martha and Arthur, who kind of fade away as characters as the movie goes on. But Martha is kind of this. She's intense. She basically just intensely looks at everybody. You don't know what her trip is actually. Arthur is a guy who's like borderline mentally impaired, but he screws everything up. So Liza gets increasingly frustrated. So two things happen. One, there's a scene where a worker has to go up on a ladder. He falls down, snaps his neck, but he's still alive. Blood's going everywhere, of course. And he's talking about how he saw these eyes, and basically the eyes he saw for a split second were kind of the eyes akin to how Emily's looked at, this kind of semi-opaque. And they give him some help, and then after that, they employ a plumber named Joe, and Joe is waylaid by Martha on the way to the sewers, and there's some kind of strange thing that passes between them that's never completely explained. And I don't think it's bad writing. I think he's trying to line up all the dots on this kind of mystical map in his head, Fulci. But I don't know they all line up exactly correctly, or but they're all aesthetically interesting. And in that one, after they have their kind of moment, he goes down there and a zombie hand comes through and smashes his head into a nail and rips his eyeballs out. And this is all extremely graphic right in the front. It's not as disgusting as the splinter in Olga Kolaros's eye in Zombie, but it is pretty nasty. Joe is dead, and so Martha finds him, and he's just not looking too great, and his whole face looks like it's kind of melting. Then on top of that, Martha finds a body that looks just like Schweik's. It rises to the surface of this muddy water, the way Schweik looked when he was covered in lye and crucified. And 53 years haven't been good on the guy, and so I think Schweik dispatches Martha, if I'm correct, because I don't remember seeing her after that, but I may be misremembering. At first, I thought Martha and Joe were married. First time you watch it, you'll probably think that. It's a little confusing. But then you learn that no, Joe has a family of his own. And so Joe is taken to the local morgue here in swinging New Orleans. And his doctor is played by David Warbeck. Amazing actor, make the most of any part. Was offered the James Bond part, but it didn't work out. I think he would have been way better than Roger Moore. Just my opinion. Classy guy. Classy guy. Rest in peace. And his character's named John McCabe. Fulci has stated that he was a fan of Robert Altman's McCabe and Mrs. Miller. So he did name the character after John McCabe, played by Warren Beatty in that film. So a little bit of, uh, shout out, Easter egg, whatever. So he is performing an autopsy and he's sewing him up. And then it kind of gets kind of strange. So Al Cliver, who's no stranger to these kind of films, he works in the morgue and he brings in this brainwave machine This is one that I can't explain. I mean, Bill mentioned a couple earlier that were stretched. This is the one that stretches it the most for me. I mean, I know it's like, I don't know. He brings in a brave machine. Everyone's dead in there. So he goes, it's no good to hook up your brainwave machine. And he's like, why not? And they're like, okay. So they hook the brainwave machine up to the Zvike corpse that they've also taken with them. They've also determined that the corpse has been dead 6 years. No explanation. He's been dead 53 years. So I don't know where they got that either, except that they just weren't able to find out what his true nature was. So of course, when they hook him up with the brainwave machine, as soon as they leave, it starts to go like this. So we kind of knew that was coming as soon as he said, "Don't put it on the brainwave machine." Okay. So after they split, it stops going up and down. It kind of levels out. So Spike's hooked up this machine. Joe's looking worse than ever. And then his wife, his widow, Mary Jane or Mary Sue, I think is her name. She does something that I didn't know people were allowed to do, but she goes into the morgue where they've been committing autopsies and dresses him for his funeral. I didn't know you could quite get away with that, but okay, well, let's say you can. I don't.
I
Nobody
don't know that
stopped
you
her.
can.
Nobody stopped her. And what's funny is she even like tailored his outfit. That was even weirder. She like starts cutting one of the sleeves. I guess it's to get it easier to fit around his corpse. And the next scene, he's got a black jacket. He's in a suit. He still looks like hell, but he's at least he's in a nice suit. So by this time, all you're getting out of this scene is that this wife is, I guess, traumatized. All right, so in the hallway, their daughter Jill, is sitting down. Jill is the beautifully appointed young lady. She's probably supposed to be maybe 14, 15, 16. I think the actress was a little older, but she's got like this red hair. She's got kind of this Pippi Longstocking looking this schoolgirl outfit, and the way it's tailored, it's like jet black. And she has cool black buckled shoes. She looks kind of like schoolgirl gothic meets Nicoletta Elmi, who was a redhead in a lot of those movies of that period in Italian movies like The Scary Girl. She's a little older than Nicoletta. I forgot the actress's name, but she's an interesting character. She's a great look, and she's waiting, and this guy's pushing this trolley down the hallway. One of the guys who works at the hospital, and it's kind of weird because the wheels are squeaky, and as they go near her, they get so squeaky that it's like super high. So if you watch it on a Dolby, which I have before, or in the theater, I mean, it is high pitch for like a couple of seconds. It is like, God damn. And I had a girlfriend one time. It's like, turn that off. And then after that scene was over, I'm like, the scene's over. She's like, yeah, but this is getting gross anyway. I can't handle it. Because right after that, Jill goes to look for her mother, and there's ellipses, in the images. There's no, the way it's cut, it's like a dream. Things suddenly happen with not much logic as far as the movement of objects within the frame. For instance, Jill goes in there. She's looking for her mother. She sees her dad's corpse. She sees Vike's corpse. So she's getting like freaked out. But then her mother is laying on the floor underneath this bottle that they had shown just casually earlier. So the bottle has acid in it. So the bottle is now tipped over and is perfectly leaned over and is dripping onto her face. She's unconscious looking up at it. So bit by bit, her whole face just disintegrates. Up close, real time. Fulci's loving it. He built a beautiful mannequin or whatever filled with fake blood and oozy stuff. And of course, Jill is going insane. Like my mom's face is being eaten by acid inexplicably. She tries to get away from the mixture of acid and blood, but she's not very fast. But she keeps trying, and somehow just inexorably gets near her almost. And so she checks all the doors. They're all locked. And comes to one, and one of these corpses is in there, and it kind of leans over to her, and she screams. So in the meantime, immediately after John and Liza have met, our two main characters, Liza's played by Catriona McCall, by the way. She was in, I believe she's all in all three of these, what I would call the Lovecraftian trilogy by Fulci. They're having dinner at a jazz club, really cool music. And of course, this is the days when people didn't have cell phones. So they actually are able to track down where John is. You got to call at the bar. And the next set of circumstances is Liza it goes driving and she meets Emily 53 years later, and now her eyes are that totally chalky white. And she's got a dog with her dog Dickie, like ostensibly a seeing eye dog. The great shot is when, Eliza's driving up this freeway, and apparently it was a famous freeway. AC knows about this.
It's
In
a bridge over Lake Pontchartrain, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and they cleared. He got licenses, believe it or not, cleared everybody out. But he has her driving in the middle of the road, I guess, because she's like, no one's around. I'll just drive in the middle lane, which at first seems absurd, but it adds to the visual of what happens. She's going right down the middle, and Emily and Dickie are just standing there, just waiting for her. And she's like, almost doesn't see them at first. Emily is immediately doing her mystic thing. You must be Liza. And she says, I don't know who dubbed her voice. The actress is named Sensei Monreal. Pretty iconic character, really. And
Yeah.
so she starts hanging out with Liza, goes back to the hotel with her, keeps warning her about the hotel. The hotel is built over the 7 gateways, just like she told you in the beginning. It gets interesting in a lot of ways from there as far as subtle things, but not so subtle things. One thing that's funny is they have a great piano interlude melody that Fabio Frizzi plays. The soundtrack is brilliant, by the way. Fabio Frizzi and his then prog rock band. I was able to see the Beyond at a fancy yuppie skyscraper here in Charlotte, scored live by Fabio Frizzi and his current prog rock band. That was quite an experience. So there's this piano kind of riff, and the way the camera goes up, the implication seems to be is that Emily is actually at the piano playing that riff, even though there's no attempt sound wise to make it sound correct. So is it on the soundtrack? What is that? Ideagetic is that word? Diegetic is that word? Like something a soundtrack that's inside of the story or outside of it for us. One's
Yeah,
called
diegetic or non-diegetic.
yes. And so you're
Yeah.
not sure which, and after a couple of minutes, it doesn't matter because she's still talking to Liza, and the music's still going on. Finally, she flees into the night with her dog, and that those are kind of some weird sequences. Like she runs through the door, and then it repeats, and she runs through again. So by this time, Liza doesn't really know what to think, and she tells John about it, and of course, John he doesn't even believe she exists. And then from there, it kind of degenerates into kind of madness because Jill's parents have a funeral and no one can see Jill's eyes. She's like grieving like this. And then we audience see her eyes and they're just like Emily's. They're the opaque kind of, I call it like the from beyond. She's seeing into the beyond.
Yeah.
She's not seeing this world exactly. Though I guess Jill has some ability to navigate. She's not using a cane. In no time, all the zombies in the morgue start to get up. Some very effective scenes. Great makeup by Gino De Rossi. Just some of his best stuff. They're just like everywhere. John McCabe and Liza finally kind of get their shit together and team up. And John tries to save the day. He has a gun, but and a few spare bullets, but he foolishly shoots a zombie somewhere. Like Bill was mentioning this in another installment of our show here. Shoots them in the most ridiculous places on their body because Don's not hip to George Romero, obviously. He does shoot one in the head and it dies. It's gone. I think he gets another one, and then they start to run, and then he starts doing it again. He's like looking. He's like shooting their chest, shooting their shoulder. I'm like, why? Why are you? I mean, the other night I watched this movie for the 50th time at least, and I was like, why are you doing this? I love this movie, but it is truly the most frustrating thing about the movie. All the illogical moments can be explained as surrealism. This one just kind of stupidity on the part of the character. So sorry, John, but he tries and he empties his gun. He gets in the elevator and he loads his gun. He loads his gun by putting the bullets in the muzzle of the gun rather than in the and it works. They all slide down and he's ready to fire again. So I don't know what kind of gun he's got. He does start dispatching some of them, but it's really like overwhelming. And they've grabbed Jill and they're taking her with them. And not long after John's, reloaded his gun, and you're hoping he started to realize shoot him in the head. Jill attacks Liza, and you see her crazy eyes, and she starts trying to maul her. And John just, without thinking to defend, like turns around and he does hit her straight in the head. It's one of the most famous shots in the movie. hits her here, and the whole back of her head, you know, blasts off, but it's still attached here, and there's just this bloody, vacuum where her brain was. And if you watch the audio commentary that Catriona and Warbeck did, it's pretty hilarious because in that scene, Catriona's like, "Oh no, there's Jill. She's getting ready to get me," and John's like, "Yeah, here she comes." And then when he shoots that audio commentary, he goes, "And yes, I got her." And then it becomes very dreamlike again in a really, I think, a very realistic way, like the way dream logic kind of operates, in that they're trying to get to the hospital from the zombies. They go through a door, and then they're on a stairwell, and he's like, "We're in the hotel again. How is this possible?" So they're back in the hotel in the little stairwell leading to where Spike came out and all the corpses. More corpses are coming though. So it's really to where they have nowhere to run. And one of the motifs early in the movie is this painting that Schweik's been painting. So, there's certain kinds of characters and legends where you have a sorcerer who creates a work of art that, comes to life or sucks people into it, or is a spell, a working of its own. I mean, because art and workings aren't really that different. This painting is one of them, and now we see how it is. In the beginning, you just see the images, but you don't really know, how powerful it is. Like, does he finish painting it? What? Apparently, he did. So after 53 years, they stumble upon his painting, and they have nowhere to go, and they go inside of his painting. So inside of his painting, all along, have been all these corpses and swaddling, wraps in this kind of wasteland with mist around. It looks very cool. It's minimalist, and it's very otherworldly, and it was like the level that this movie needed to go to next. But it doesn't stop there. So then they start looking around, and they have nowhere to go. They look behind them, beside them, and that's all they see. When they finally swing around the last time, their eyes are like this. Their eyes are the white, opaque eyes. So now they have seen the beyond, and they're in the beyond, wherever the beyond is, but it's inside the painting. So I've thought a lot about this movie. I've read other people's theories. I tend to make my own theories first, and then after a while, if I'm really into the movie, I'll eventually start reading others, and trying to pick through all the trolley crap that's online. But there have been some interesting theories, and friends of mine have had theories. So all these little things that I'm mentioning, these connections, you might not get all these watching it the first time, or even the second time, or you might disagree with me. But I'm just going by like the kind of story it is, and kind of the way horror fiction and occult literature is always played out, with these synchronicities and these portals to other realms, and all the way down. David Lynch is a huge proponent of this kind of storytelling, this kind of premise. So they're in the painting, and the music comes back. The music soundtrack is incredible. The opening sound music is awesome. It's a melody. I forgot what the piece is called in English, but the it's a choral chorus, and they're singing "Et tu vivre nel Dalila." So it's "You will live, and you will live in terror forever, the beyond," which was the original Italian title. The whole title in Italian was that, and then internationally just translated like "La Dila" to the beyond, and but they're singing that, and so that elegiac kind of melody, it comes up when they're in the painting and the credits are rolling, and it really startled me the first time I saw it. I liked it a lot more than I thought I would. I didn't know where it was going. I hadn't seen a lot of Fulci's, but Mark Baranowski, the marksman, late of this channel, he used to expose me to a lot of horror movies he had on tape in the late '90s, and this was one. This is one of the first ones because I kept hearing about it, and I watched it. And I get to that point, and I was kind of stunned, and I'd recently seen in the theater, seeing them backwards, but I'd recently seen Cemetery Man in the theater here in Charlotte. So we were talking earlier about how that movie goes off the rails, almost literally, toward the end into this existential place. This is kind of how the effect this had on me. It was like, this is not just a horror movie. This is not just a mystical movie, and it's definitely not just a zombie movie. There's so many things informing this, and through sound and images, occasional drops in script logic. But other than that, as far as just the cinema of it, I think Fulci nails it. I think it's his. I think on that level, it's his masterpiece. It may or may not be someone's favorite one, but I think it's his most fully realized attempt to just create this kind of just mystical experience, surrealistic experience, and drawing on stuff like Lovecraft and all these other kind of cosmic horror things. I highly recommend it. It's an amazing film. Who here has seen it, and what are your thoughts? All right, who wants to go first?
I love this movie. I love it. It's great. It's another one of those that I saw at first. Was it Seven Doors of Death? There was
Mm-hmm.
a,
Mm-hmm.
had a beautiful clamshell cover, but it was cut, and I don't know. Maybe they pan
Pan
and
and
scanned it.
scan.
It was, yeah, it was not. It didn't do anything for me. I was like wondering what the fuss was about, and then later on, I got to see it again. I'd pretty much forgotten all about it. It was like watching it for the first time. You know, the audaciousness of that ending was just like what? I couldn't believe it. A lot really, really well done. This is one of the ones that really got me into reappraising Fulci.
Yeah, I was so happy when Anchor Bay started remastering his stuff, but that one really, particularly, I think, hit a nerve with
Mhm.
Anchor Bay collectors and viewers, many of whom probably had never seen it before or had never seen it in that form. And the sound remastering on those DVDs was incredible for the time. Wouldn't that happen in a dream? Maybe in a dream you'd be shooting the zombies, and your dream isn't lucid, but so you accidentally
Mhm.
hit him one in the head. So then you just keep shooting, and then your lucid dream goes, "Hey, hey, hey, wake up! Shoot him in the head!" And I'll just write it off to that. Give him an excuse. What did you think, AC?
I saw the movie originally back in the theater when it was Seven Doors to Death. And I'll be honest with you, it was okay. It didn't really trip my trigger in any way, but I've seen it again a few times since then, including the uncut version, The Beyond, which we saw at our drive-in shows, Dust to Dawn shows in Pittsburgh, outside of Pittsburgh in spring, newly remastered version by Grindhouse releasing, and it looked
Yes. Yeah.
absolutely spectacular. And you know that, Henry. It looks just so good. And that's the way that movie needs to be seen. I love the movie. It's not my favorite Fulci, but I like how ambitious it is. As you said, it's really a combination of things. It's a zombie film. It's a lot of Italian blood and gore at the time, which was in vogue. And it's Lovecraftian and existential. And another film released by Aquarius, releasing Terry Levine out of New York City way back in the day. And he didn't do the film really any favors. But I suppose he figured, well, I have to anglicize all the names of the people in the credits and change the title and cut the gore out to make it more
Oh, what a
palatable.
chore! I would just keep it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would just delete the film
Hope
then.
for the best.
But anyway, yeah, it stands pretty high on the pantheon of Fulci films. It has iconic scenes. The scene with the blind girl with her dog standing on the Pontchartrain Bridge is one of the all-timers. It's one of Fulci's best compositions that when you
It's
see
a
it, you'll
perfect
never forget
still.
it. It's a
Yeah.
perfect still. And the world that Fulci imagines at the end, sort of like his, I don't know what you want to call it, purgatory, hell, another
Yes.
dimension, it's incredibly imaginative for such a low budget. So I admire the film a lot.
Well, I forgot a key scene that's pretty intense. One key scene I forgot. Emily, when Emily comes back again to try to warn Eliza, and Eliza doesn't know what's going on, and Eliza leaves. Elijah's our guy on our show. Sorry, Elijah. Eliza, the character in the movie, leaves, and Emily, it's really great. She's like, I feel a presence there. And then she's like, Spike. And you've already seen kind of his corpse come back, but she senses like his spirit. And she's like, no, you can't take me back. In other words, she's been to the beyond, and this is how she is now. And she's like a like a conduit between these worlds, trying to warn our world of what's going on. Dickie is a great dog actor. Some people don't believe in those, but I do. Maybe I'm being silly, but I love animals, so I'm gonna give Dickie some props. Very well trained animal. I don't know what she's gonna do by what she hopes to accomplish by this, except desperation. She says, "Dickie, Dickie, attack!" And so the dog starts leaping at the. Finally, they come out as zombies. You finally see what she's referring to. He's biting the zombies, ripping them up, and then things get kind of weird. And there's like that little mystical lull, kind of like in Suspiria with the blind guy humiliated in the school, where the bird goes over his head, the shadow of the bird, and then his dog rips his throat out. Well, this is Fulci's take on that. So poor Dickie ripped out the throat of the corporeal body of his mistress. So that was very heartbreaking to me. But anyway, what do you think, Robert?
Great pervading sense of doom throughout that whole
Oh yeah.
film. It really creeps you out after a while because it just builds, one scene after another. And the scene on the bridge is just the best. But it's one of my all-time favorites. When I would talk about horror films with other people, I would always say, have you seen The Beyond?
Yeah.
And inevitably it was like, well, I saw it, but it was all badly dubbed and recut or whatever. And it's like finally you can see it now the way it should be, which is, hopefully on a big screen TV and got the sound cranked up because that's the way to see it. And it's a great movie.
I hope I don't know if he's going to do it again, but Fritz, he did the tour in 2017, and then he did them in 2023. So in 2023, Tim Tolbert, one of our guys, Tim Tolbert went to go see him scoring it, the composer's cut. So our fourth episode of our show ever is he and I discussing like in depth, not just the movie itself, but how that cut was, how was the music. I saw it in 2017, like I said, a few years earlier. And if anybody can see it like that, I mean, because this place was like some place that would have like all these fancy, swanky operas and ballets. And so they have this giant screen. And then you see these guys down here jamming, and it's just like every note. But occasionally they would get a little jazzy and do a little jam. A couple bassists might do a different lick. And it was cool. It was really made it more alive, and made you feel part of something that's happening spontaneously. So yes, I think everyone should see it in the theater if they can, but definitely the big TV. I wanted to show you guys before I go to Chuck. This is the Grindhouse releasing Blu-ray, and this thing is like packed with 80,000. See, there's Spike crucified. 80 million people. There's been action figures of Emily and the dog, and it's like it's a cottage industry, and by no means would anybody in the right mind say that's a sellout. I would say that is a long overdue appreciation of a deceased artist who unfortunately cannot share in the revenue, the fruit of his brilliant labor. So, Chuck?
Yeah.
You're next. The Beyond.
Okay, well, that one, yes, I have seen it. Love it. Now, that was one when Heather and I first got together. She was already writing about film and whatnot, and I was kind of going back and forth and asking her, you should turn me on to some of the ones you've written about. And The Beyond is one of her favorites. And so when she and I moved in together, she would show me some movies, and Heather has turned me on to a lot of stuff.
That is the kind of girl you want to marry, guys.
Oh yeah, and we have a couple or three different copies of that. One was this came in like a metal box.
I used to have that. Yeah,
a
that was Anchor
canister.
Bay.
Yeah. It would have had to have been Anchor Bay. But I just love the whole kind of Lovecraftian, reality comes completely unglued factor. I'm a big fan of that kind of thing. And yeah, just the shot of Emily on the bridge, fantastic. Just that was my first Fulci, and
Oh wow.
and well, no, I was actually Zombie, but
Yeah, that was mine.
I didn't know it was Fulci before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so yeah, it's held in high esteem in our home.
Very good. Justin, are you ready? I bet this will come to the Ass Store in no time. I bet it will come to the Ass Store.
Yeah, look, it eventually probably will. They're doing Halloween at the moment for the next couple of weeks. I think a Night of the Living Dead's coming up as well. But yeah, I like the concept. I haven't seen it, but I like the concept of the other world within the painting.
Yeah.
That's the kind of Lovecraftian thing I find quite interesting, actually.
Grant Morrison did a good riff of it in Dim Patrol comics, which were and in
Ooh.
the show, TV show. But
It's kind of a Stephen King trope as well, isn't it? I used to read quite a bit of Stephen King, but just sort of dropped off of late. I don't know why. I just stopped reading in general. I think it's because I do too much reading for work. But ever since COVID, I kind of stopped reading novels. I really feel like I should get back to it at some point. You know what I mean?
yeah, I don't read
Yeah.
novels
Anyway,
much. I read a lot of nonfiction though. But
yeah.
so for the edification of the audience and our group here, before we start to wrap up, I thought this was a trip. Justin, tell these guys what you did just see at the App Store. Speaking of Italian horror.
Oh yes. Look, I was tired. I had quite a few red wines after work drinks, but I did go and see this film Blood and Black Lace at the Astor last night, which is an
Great
Italian early slasher film. It was
Yeah.
very
Oh yeah.
I like the way it was so atmospheric and stylized, particularly at the start, the first 15 minutes or so, with the first killing. So it's Italian and subtitles, 1964, obviously set in Rome, I think. But yeah, it was only quite short, like 85 minutes or so. But we quite liked it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Lava, the best.
I'm glad you've joined us
yeah.
Yep.
in this in
Granddaddy of
experiencing. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a game changing film.
Hmm.
All right, so
There's a period before things like phones and so forth, so mobile phones that is. So I like the last scene where they've got this big red phone. You know, it's quite funny. One of those dial-up phones. Yeah.
right.
Anyway,
Can you dial
it
it
just
quick
sort of
enough before you kill?
sums it all up. Yeah.
While we got
Yeah,
you, while
so-
we got you talking, what would you like to tell the audience about our show?
Okay, well, we love bringing these films to you in terms of reviews, and there's probably a few films you haven't heard of. So please do find that as a pathway towards watching these films, as we do. But also, don't forget to like the videos, bang a comment on there if there's something you want to add to the discussion. And please subscribe to the channel, and also so you'll get more notifications, hit the notification bell. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, everybody. More zombies coming up.
And it's true that we cannot see that far behind. If we looked all the way in the past, we'd go blind. In the night, from the stars as they've all lived their lives, and the light that they gave as they burned and then died.